All right, here with Cam. I've been talking for a few minutes about all the things, but let's get into it. So I just realized I don't think I said congrats to you until 3 seconds ago. So congrats on
Well,
winning. I mean, I'm sure I said something in the league chat, but like for how
yeah,
much
thank
I
you
feel
very
like you and I
much. I
talk.
think the first time you told me congratulations was like 2 hours before the Monday night game during the championship week started.
Yeah,
And I was like, I'm not accepting this.
yeah,
How dare you? But now I will graciously accept it.
yeah. That's turned into a thing. I don't really know how that turned into a thing. I feel like that's just a thing now across like the couple different leagues that we're in. Like I know that that it was in Dynasty Degenerates, another fix. People are saying GG, and people are like, "Don't you fucking dare!"
Yeah, the
Promo
premature
league.
GGs just to try
Yeah,
to like make the other person act all cocky for a second, and then
yeah, just to throw in their
you
face.
come back and win, and then it's you rub salt in the wound. For me, I'm not engaging in those GGs until at least like halfway through the Monday night game.
Yeah, until it's
Plus, and I
like
said
done,
this
done.
at the time, like that game was far closer than we expected, just based on game script.
Right.
That was a crazy sweat for me, honestly.
Yeah, and it's funny. People still really not depend on right, but people still really believe in. Well, I'm projected to win by like 55 to 45. That's nothing. I mean, I lost to K Migs when I was up 69%. Nice, 69% to 31% and still lost. Like projections are a complete wash until
Yeah,
your point. Until you're like at least knee deep into the Monday night game is when I feel like you can start to relax or not relax a little bit. So,
especially with the people we had yet to play. I think he had Goff and Amon Ra, and I had Gibbs.
yep,
Like that's 100 points sitting right there between the three. In fact, it
yeah,
was far more
at
than that
least,
at the end of the
yeah,
day.
yeah. Well, we're here for the award show. For those of you who haven't been with us before, we do an award show at the end of each year. And I think for the most part, we voted on the exact same things every year. I think I might have tweaked a little bit or added a category in or taken one out or something like that. But 16 different things we voted on this year. And we'll start at the MVP for quarterback. We'll save GM of the year last. I'll probably put the text document out there too, so people can see it and remove the names for the votes. But what was interesting, disclaimer: 13 people voted. Now there's only 12 of us, but 13 people voted. So I immediately was like, okay, well let me look at the duplicate times. Like let me look at the timestamps that are duplicate. None. They were all different times throughout the couple days. So I said, okay, let me go look and see who is the same answers or very similar answers all over the place. So somebody voted twice, forgot they voted the first time, and completely changed their answers the second time around. And so since I didn't know what to do, I left it in there. So when you do math and you see 13 votes and you get confused, it's probably Spider Pigs. Let's go ahead and take a look.
Proper bunch
Quarterback.
of bona fide idiots we are.
Yeah, well, especially just one of us is really special. Lamar Jackson barely ekes out the MVP award for Unicorn. 5 votes. Won it last year for us as well. Burrow and Allen both coming in behind with 4 votes. So Lamar ran away with it last year, but this year was a very close three-way race between the three, between Lamar, Burrow, and Allen. And it feels like it's also going to be this way in the NFL as well. I mean, Burrow's not in it because they didn't make the playoffs and all that, but Lamar, Allen for sure. The one of them is the MVP. Do you have a particular horse in that race or a preference for anything like that?
Well, I just think it's funny. It's quite the mirror of the NFL. I think Burrow's on Chase's team, right?
Yep.
So Burrow misses the playoffs in our league. Josh Allen obviously made the playoffs, but I mean with Lamar and Unicorn, I can't give it to him. I got to see him put up the numbers in the playoffs. So
Yeah.
until Unicorn has some success there, I think I got to give it to Josh Allen.
Yeah. Code sitting on Ticket to Ride after a great year this year, and similar result of not making it to the end there for both those teams, but good years for both of them. Let's move to running back. This one was probably pretty obvious for you. The ever what the hell? Why is it watching Penguin? I thought I had it in order. No, please hold. I my illegally downloaded movies. Oh, it's playing. I don't know what it's playing. Let's do this. Am I gonna have to do it this way? I guess I'm gonna have to do it this way. Saquon Barkley running away with this one. 10 votes. Jameer Gibbs getting 2 for you, and Derrick Henry also getting 1 for you. So in a sense, 10 votes for Saquon, 3 votes for you. But Saquon Barkley for K makes takes away the running back MVP. Feel like this was correct as well. It was a for a while there, it was a 2-horse race with Saquon and Henry, and then just Saquon kept going, and Henry did not as much. So, thoughts on this one? This is a slam dunk, though. Do you agree? Or I know it's tough.
No complaints there. I mean, Henry and Gibbs essentially stole votes from each other. Not that they would have won anyways, but I mean, I cannot complain with their performance down the stretch. I think K-Migs may want to complain about Saquon's performance in the chip, but
Yeah.
well-deserved MVP for Saquon, carrying that god-awful Eagle team and their so-called quarterback all the way to the divisional round. So,
Yeah, and probably the NFC Championship game. We'll see, depending on how this next game goes, obviously.
I think you're right there.
Dreadful watch. You think I'm right or wrong?
I think you're right. I think so. They match up against the winner of this game right now, right?
Yeah. And the
Okay,
Vikings are frauds. They already beat the Rams, so I'm not too stressed.
It's a Lions-Eagles crash course.
Yeah, which sucks because I love the Lions, so I think I want whoever wins that to win. So, moving on to the wide receiver MVP, I feel like this is a very similar story. Jamar Chase running away with it. I mean, one of the best seasons we've seen in a long time from a wide receiver in terms of like the separation between him and everybody else was just massive. Brian Thomas Jr. picks up the other 2 votes for Flynn there as the only other receiver to receive votes. Can't remember off the top of my head who were the other people, and I probably should have that up in front of me, but I do not.
I'd imagine it was Justin Jefferson. A bit salty. I didn't get
probably
the clean
Jefferson
sweep
and
on
CD.
these. Anyone who voted Brian Thomas as the MVP at wide receiver in fantasy, you're an idiot. But hey, keep on rebuilding.
Yeah, Justin Jefferson.
Congrats on the vote,
Ra.
Morgan.
Yeah, I wonder. That's probably what I should have done. Is I probably should have said, okay, who voted for Brian Thomas twice? That was the duplicate voting, and just deleted one of them and kept moving. But I didn't, and PTJ with the 2 votes there. And Flynn has him, right? Is it Flynn that has Brian Thomas Jr. or is it Morgan? I thought it was Flynn.
I have no idea.
I thought it was Flynn. So cool votes for you, Flynn. It was Flynn according to my notes on the thing. Oh boy, what a mess this is. Who is producing this show? Let's move on to our tight end MVP. Not a single vote for Brock Bowers, even though the reason why is because he wasn't on the fucking list. That's why.
It's got to be a recency bias thing with that like 40-point game from McBride too.
Yeah, and it's also one of the ones where like Jonnu, Travis Kelce, and Mark Andrews also on there.
Jonnu Smith.
But Jonnu Smith picks up a couple votes.
Second half of the season, he was crazy.
And broke some records for the Dolphins, from what I understand. He and Marvin Mims, I was trying to sell forever in this league that I'm like major rebuilding in, and now I'm like, maybe I hold on to these guys.
Fun fact, I had Jonnu Smith straight out of the, I think the veteran draft this offseason, and then I cut him for a measly $2.
There it is.
Because obviously big things in the making, and then down the road, I always wished I had him. So
isn't that the worst when you go back and look and say like, damn, I can't believe I cut that guy, or I can't believe I did this.
I specifically cut him so I could keep DJ Chark and Kendrick Bourne. Turned out great.
Yeah, that's like me trading Lamar for basically the equivalent of DeAndre Swift. What a fucking mess that was. Maybe I'll learn my lesson to not trade so much one day. Speaking of trading and other teams in this league, let's talk about these teams you are secretly rooting for. Little all over the place. That's the wrong one. Little all over the place. But teams you are secretly rooting for. A clear winner here with Flynn. And I love that. I think that I feel like until you see success, we will love you. And I feel like after just 2 back-to-back bad seasons, people were really excited to see Flynn do well. And so Flynn coming out with 7 votes. Other notable teams that were secretly being rooted for: the C-Words with 4, Implications with 3, the Liquidators with 3, the Pandas with 3. A couple teams with no love, though. M.I. Spooky was 0, you was 0, and the Deli was 0. How does it feel to have people voting for K. Miggs? How does it feel to have?
That's I got no problems.
Unless he voted for himself.
0. As the bylaw finagler, if you will. I expected the pushback there, but to have not the same but fewer votes than K-Mig's there, I mean, come on, guys, come on.
It hurts. That's a tough one to stomach, I'm sure, but that's how we feel. But let's talk about who we're secretly rooting against. I need to make this actually a little bit different, I think. I need to make
There it is.
better speech
That's
to
the
title.
one.
This is the one. So who are you secretly rooting against? Lots of love coming your way. Lots of love coming to your way a second time with your other team. And lots of love going to K Migs there. Ticket to Ride, a surprising one, with half the league rooting against them secretly. Morgan with a good chunk of people rooting against him. And then some, random shots here and there. Rick, the only team, the C-Words, not being rooted against. Even though we all love Flynn, someone's still secretly rooting against him. I wonder if that was a division rival or not. But Rick has nobody rooting against him. That might change this year with the up and up that it seems like Rick is on.
Yeah.
But
Sorry to disappoint all my haters. I'll probably come through for y'all in the next couple years, though.
yeah, I think this is pretty all spread out. There's no other major takeaways that I see other than Rick being the only one to not get a vote. So let's keep it going. Who did you enjoy discussing trades with the most? I think this is the only thing people like me for because I get fleeced every time. But I got a surprising amount of votes, 9 votes for me, so thank you guys. But 4 for Nate, 4 for you, and 4 for Chase, before a third for Rick and Code, and then a kind of spattering here or there of the trade discussions for the rest of the league. But I think this one I feel like has always kind of stayed as who is traded the most, and then they get the votes for this one more so than the rest.
Responds to trade offers with substantive negotiations. K-Migs. But we know how it goes. You know who you can get a deal done with when the time comes.
Yeah, and I remember I enjoyed negotiating with Morgan. I should change my vote. I should have voted for Morgan. As much as I made fun of him, and I don't know if you remember the screenshots I sent like 3 different messages of like, what do you want for Nico? And it was like, more, a lot, more than that. Like, that's all I got back, but we got it done. So
I think sometimes you got to trade talks with Morgan. The one thing I'll say
I like
about
trading
with Morgan is, like you'll send, here's an offer. He's like, that seems fair. What is the contract cost for so-and-so? I'm always like, Morgan, click on the player or look on the spreadsheet.
Right
like
there.
I'll do it.
Yeah, I'll tell you, but yeah, that's what gets things complicated, man. Is like a good or bad contract.
There's nothing in the bylaws against lying.
That is
so
true.
Maybe we should add that.
Nothing in the bylaws against lying. Maybe you'll have significantly less votes next year when you start lying to people. Most likely to go from playoffs to toilet bowl. Allen takes the cake with 7 votes. Pandas get 2. Ticket to Ride gets 2. You and Brownout both getting your own individual vote. Note, Flynn not receiving a single vote here and the most likely to go from the playoffs to the toilet bowl. But I will say this. Allen won this vote last year in terms of most likely to go from playoffs to the toilet bowl. And here we are again this year. He's in the playoffs, and we're talking about him going to the toilet bowl again. Some big decisions there for the deli, but
safest vote is probably going with the winner of that division to lose the division and therefore fall out of playoffs. So
yeah,
I agree with the league here. I voted for Allen here. But
I think I did too. Any thoughts on those bottom 4 teams? So those just for the record, because this is upcoming. Ticket to Ride, Brownout, the Inaugurals, and the Pandas are the 4 most winningest teams in this league. And all of them still getting a vote in some capacity, whereas Flynn, the least winningest team of all time, not getting a vote. How do you feel about that? Do you think it's just because there is no such thing as sustained success? Do you think it's more haters gonna hate, or somewhere in the middle?
Well, sustained success, I mean, we'll see if someone can have sustained success.
Hasn't happened yet.
Maybe if someone wins 3 championships or back-to-back chips, one day we'll see it, but we have not crossed that bridge yet.
That is fair. We'll get there. We'll get there one day, Alan. Most likely to go from toilet bowl to playoffs. Pretty runaway vote here for Rick. 9 of the votes going his way. 2 going to MI Spooky. 2 going to the implications. You're wrong. And 0 going to Cup Runneth Over. Probably correct there, as Nate seems to be at a at the tippy top of the mountain for the rebuild there for him. But Spooky getting 2 votes. I think The right answer is Rick. That's probably who I voted for. But do you think this is a by default, or do you have high expectations for the C words next year?
I think it's a coin flip between you and Rick. The reason being, and I don't know if you're setting me up for like a nice smooth segue here, but I think it depends entirely on what division they're put in, because as we've seen, division makeup really affects your chances of making the playoffs if you don't win your division.
Yeah.
So if it's chalk and the people selecting the divisions are the division winners, we just got to see who falls in the easier division between you and Rick.
No sexy segue, but maybe we'll come back to it at some point in time for that. Unfortunately, there's not. Let's talk about the worst trade of the year. It comes back to bite you just barely, according to the league. Derek Carr plus what turns into 103 plus what turns into 206 being sent for Tank Dell, who obviously had that nasty injury. And again, this was prefaced. This was a new vote. This was prefaced as, now that we have foresight, what do you think? So couldn't have done it then. I'm surprised this doesn't go towards Kittle for Singletary. I don't remember which one I voted for, and then Amari Cooper for a third. That trade ended up way better in retrospect, I think. What are your thoughts on this one? Obviously, 103.
I've got
a
pretty
lot,
strong
but it wasn't
thoughts on
103
this one now.
Go for it.
The 103, obviously, like that's pretty substantial. But
yeah,
implicit in that trade was Derek Carr's contract of 101 going down to Tank Dell's of 8, so
right.
$93 cap reduction.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. Like in hindsight, yeah, I'd rather have the 103 than a dude with a nearly removed leg. But I've got pretty strong feelings that Amari Cooper one should be the worst trade, because foresight, hindsight, regardless, doesn't matter. There was never a even trade on the table there, because if we recall, that was the one that included the $50 cap. Right. But ultimately, the best part of that trade is that Amari Cooper was irrelevant down the stretch. So take it as it is.
I do like,
and I'll take this one on the chin.
I do like the 2 changes that we added to the 24-hour trade review for orphan owners, and the orphans get an extra roster move. I think it makes a lot of sense. The only concern, truly, and I say this with the utmost love and respect, I'm excited for Rick to be like, back in my day when I took over an orphan, I didn't get no extra roster move. We all know that that's going to come at some point in time.
I just like that. Dude.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Shut up.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. I think it's Kittle for Singletary. I think the caveat to that is that obviously Code knew that he wasn't going to be able to re-sign Kittle like K-Migs with Saquon this year, so got out of it early. This was in the offseason, but that didn't work. And again, the Amari Cooper trade ended up not working out that well, and Nate's trying to full rebuild and shed cap. So it's kind of fun that all 3 of these look miserable on paper, but they all do have a kind of... But there was a bigger picture at play here, which again makes our leagues oh so special. So we'll keep it moving to the most disappointing team of the year. The Liquidators come away with this one with 7 votes. The Tigers grab 3, the Panthers grab 2, and M.I. Spooky gets 1. Nobody else getting a single vote. M.I. Spooky getting 1, I think, is interesting. I don't quite remember who I voted for, but I think it was one of the Liquidators or the Tigers, I think. And you said it's surprising. What is surprising to you here?
Not to rag on Unicorn here, but I mean, we closed the chapter on the first 3 years of the league, and I think he's got 1 playoff win. I can't recall, but in my opinion, him not winning this year got to title his first 3 years as a disappointment, and this year in particular, getting bounced after 1 game, which nothing against Unicorn. Like you take the cards as they fall in the playoffs, but I mean that's got to be disappointing. So I know I voted for Unicorn. I'm surprised Chase won this one, because I kind of feel like his outlook coming into the season was hover around the middle. Whatever happens, and that's exactly what he did. And in my opinion, of the teams we'll select for divisions, he's going to be the dead last pick because his team's the scariest.
I think that there was so much hype around it that his team was hyped up to make playoffs, and we love you, Flynn, clearly, but I think that when you lose on the 6 seed to Flynn, that kind of puts a damper on your image, and I think that's where that comes from. To fact check you on Flynn, the third best win percentage of all time in our league, second most points for of all time in our league, most division wins of all time in our league, only 2 playoff wins in all time in our league, which is difficult. And one of those is in the third place game against the Implications, who have gone 0-4 against the Kung Hu Pandas, no matter how much shit they talk.
But you've learned who said pandas are now, right?
One day I'll figure out. Apparently, once I get a win, I'll know who they are. The most okay team of the year. I think this is fairly accurate. I love this one. I feel like this award should be renamed to the Dan Flashes Award. The most okay team of the year, the Webster Tigers, get 8 votes. That is not the Deli that gets 2 votes. That is Ticket to Ride that got 2 votes. The Liquidators get 2 votes. The Seawards get 1 vote there. I do feel like it's Morgan. I feel like there were some expectations, and there were some weeks where there was insane boom or bust for Morgan, and we saw a bit of a bust towards the end of the year there at 8 votes. Accurate, not accurate? You've kind of had some staunch opinions on some of these other ones, but you kind of agree?
I think they nailed it. Morgan, you are A-okay.
And we love you for it. That's the nicest thing one of you said to the other person, I think, in this 3-year history of love between Wisconsin and Texas, even though you're in D.C. The 2025 contenders on a per vote basis. You can vote for multiple people here. And I think this is interesting. We'll talk big picture as the next slide is pretenders before we unveil the most prestigious honor, the GM of the Year award, which comes with absolutely nothing. 2025 contenders: Chase with 11 of the 13 possible votes, Flynn with 10 of 13, K-Migs at 9, Inaugurals at 8, Ticket to Ride and Kung Fu Pandas at 7, before a massive drop-off to My Cup Runneth Over with 4, the Webster Tigers with 4, and Allen with just 1. Spooky getting none, Seaward's getting none, Rick and the Implications getting none. So while people thought that Rick would make it to the playoffs, very heavily so, 9 of the 13 votes, nobody thinks he's actually a contender. Some big, bold thoughts here for this league. But I think we have to figure out what our definition of contenders versus pretenders is, because the pretenders votes are a little all over the place. We'll get there in a second. Accurate. Do you view Chase as a contender? Again, so much draft capital still. Flynn, so much on the up and up. Cut Najee Harris today as well. Brownout still strong. Inaugural still strong. Panda still strong. Do you think it should be split up like this? Do you see those 6 teams as the playoffs for next year?
I think it's more or less spot on. I mean, I think there's a little bit of recency bias there with, Flynn and Chase being the expected strongest teams, so to speak, because I think every year we love to see like the new faces be the relevant teams. Like, are we really going to say Brownout is not going to continue with all that depth and be a contender next year? I don't know. I would probably title this as like, these are the teams that we expect to fight for playoffs or have a playoff spot.
Right.
Because I do think, for example, Brownout is more of a contender than Flynn.
Right.
Even though I think they'll both make the playoffs. I don't know where I stand on my team. I think the number should probably be a little lower after we see some off-season moves, but we'll see as we go.
Yeah, and you're in that interesting spot where you get rid of one of your guys for whatever, and you're back in it, no problem. But to find someone to do it is tricky, and then you're in a very similar spot. I came to an epiphany. I don't want to talk about myself and my team a lot because that's not my role here. But I keep drawing that line of like our teams are similar for how we were. But like I truly knew that I could try to stay in. I'm glad I didn't with the whole CMC thing. But like you've got an interesting decision to make here in the off season on, do you try to get out now before it's miserable, or do you continue to try to push while you've still got a chance? And it'll be a fun decision for you. Let's look at our pretenders, and we've got 6 for the Deli, 7 for the Tigers, 6 for Ticket to Ride, and then a split of 4 on the inaugural, the Implications, 4 on a Cup, 3 on a Spooky, 3 on Inaugurals, 4 onto the Pandas, getting some shots fired their way before splattering elsewhere. And that's why I feel like we need to maybe change the wording in this one, the Pretenders. It's not the worst teams, right? Because I don't think you would call my Cup Run at the Over or the Implications a pretender. They're just they couldn't pretend even if they wanted to. But the realistic fact here is the league believes in Brownout, Flynn, the Liquidators, and the C words a little bit even. Some doubt behind the Inaugural, some doubt behind the Pandas, a lot of doubt behind the Delhi and the Tigers, though. As we look at the quote-unquote pretenders coming into this next year. Let's keep it going to...
I think we nailed that.
Yeah, me too. Who wins it all? So you get to choose one person here, one team for who's going to win it all next year. We've got 3 votes for the Inaugurals, 3 votes for Brownout, 2 votes for the Tigers, and 2 votes for Ticket to Ride before. A little bit of here and there. The Liquidators wouldn't like Flynn and the Delhi. You can vote for yourself here, and so I'm expecting that's what some teams did. But the biggest takeaway for me is not a single person voting for the Kangsu Pandas this year. Morgan getting 2 of those votes as well. The Ticket to Ride, who we called pretenders a moment ago, still ends up with 2 votes. As for who can win it all, Flynn gets the 1. So, not as much confidence here as we said they were going to be a contender earlier on. But yeah, it's interesting. We said a few slides ago, the Liquidators, 11 people picked them to be a contender and 10 for Flynn. But here they are with just 1 vote, whereas we have that clear lead between the Inaugurals and Brownout. So,
yeah, and I voted for myself. And I literally have negative odds at this point. 67% of the time, I'm the best bet to win it all. So, I think y'all got to vote for me next time. Come on, guys.
Statistically speaking, you're not wrong, which is the worst part about it. All right, now the most prestigious award comes with absolutely nothing. The GM of the Year award. I can't remember in past years if it's just been the GM that won it all. I'll have to go back and take a look at some point in time. So let's take a look. Drum roll. And it is going to be going for you at 6 votes, 4 for Flynn, and 3 for Miggs there. 4 for Flynn.
Put on my suit for this one.
I should have gotten dressed up like Rick did for the draft. And but 6 votes. Yeah, Rick did not turn his camera on that entire time. And then he turned. I was like, "Are you ready?" He's like, "Yeah." I'm like, "All right, you turn the camera on." And then he was in a suit. I was like, "I need to go get dressed up." And he's like, "No, just go." But anyway, 6 votes for you. About half of the league saying that you were the GM of the year. Again, very active style for you making these moves versus some of these other teams who are able to just kind of build the team. What are your thoughts on GM of the year? Do you feel like this is just whoever wins it gets this, or do you respect Flynn getting more votes than Miggs, even though Flynn was eliminated significantly sooner in the playoffs?
I do respect Flynn getting more votes than Miggs, and given the disdain towards the inaugurals and the previous votes, I was actually expecting Flynn to get this one, because I do think at the start of the season he's the team that most that outperformed their expectations the most. I can't recall if it was through trades or drafts or whatever, but kudos to however he got that team.
Yeah.
I do think I deserve it, but I do think it's very much so like a whoever wins the chip gets it. I think I had 1 or 2 moves that I think were particularly shrewd, the biggest one being the Derrick Henry move. And it wasn't because I wanted Derrick Henry so much as it was that I needed to play defensive and not let K-Mix get him.
Right.
And that's why I made that move so early. I think, trade deadline was week 13. I did it in week 7 or 8 or something, just
early
to make sure no one else could get their grimy little claws on him.
Yeah, like I said, it's very active, right? K Miggs, who is active in the chat in a different way, has just built that team, like found the value, got the contracts, made the right decisions, and it isn't through the trades that you're able to say. And so I think that's something that you can very much hang your hat on, and it's reason number at least 5 on the list of why you don't trade with Camhun. As we've all learned that
but
in
I
the
did
end,
give
you
him
will lose.
So.
You did give him Saquon. So that does it for our award show. Now we do have something we want to go over, and we'll do live here on the stream. So each division winner gets to name their division, whatever they want, as long as it's appropriate. Like, I don't plan on policing it, right? but they get to name their division. And you told me the other day the name of your division. I should have probably had that, I guess, at least somewhat ready to go for this, knowing that we were going to go ahead and spin the wheel and kind of figure out the divisions now. But would you like to announce the name of your division that you've decided to name something so wonderful?
Yeah, and before I even do that, can I make a request on air?
Absolutely.
May I be the division that's at the top, so I don't have to scroll down as far?
Haven't thought that
That's all I
far
ask.
ahead, so I guess so. I guess so. Why not? Who had the best win percentage? Is it you or is it Migs?
It's me.
Okay,
that,
so
that
yeah,
was
you can be.
all the marbles in the championship game.
Yeah, so you can have that spot then. That's for sure.
Get out of that division of death spot. But yeah, my division will be called the Real Men of Genius. Throwback to the 2000s Bud Light commercials. I'm only selecting Real Men of Genius for my division and being randomly assigned another Real Man of Genius. But for all of those who enjoyed 2000s sport talk radio shows in the morning, you'll be well familiar with this. And we will have a lovely, inclusive division that's hopefully not as bad as this previous division I was in.
And this is your
Flynn,
logo.
I'm sorry
you're
stuck with one of us still. Hopefully it's not me though.
Flynn. And you've chosen the Bud Light logo as your division logo. So as
Yep.
someone who has no idea
So we're
what you're
actually
talking about, this
sponsored.
is interesting. Okay, yeah, your division's sponsored by Bud Light. Just a case. What is it? A case a week gets sent to the house?
Far more than that. You have no idea.
You used to have to DM me your social security number and your address and your 4-digit PIN, and then Cam and I can get a
mother's
card.
maiden name. Is that all right?
Mother's maiden name, and don't forget the name of your favorite third grade teacher. Also, the important thing to do. But so the thing that we're actually going to do, though, if I can find it, I've got to get all this out of the way now. Oh my absolute goodness! Let's see what the divisions are. So we've got this super high-tech spinner, and we're going to spin it, and we're going to see what the divisions are live. So all 6 teams that could be randomly chosen on here. By the way, it comes down to the Pandas, the Inaugurals, and Brownout as the top 3 win percentage teams, barely beating out Ticket to Ride, which is incredible coming from the same exact division. We were talking about earlier on the stream, like if you take out your individual division percentage, it's just how much it skyrockets in your win-loss percentage. When it comes to the worst teams, it was Flynn at 32%, me at 36%, and then the C-Words plus Booty Disciple tied exactly win-loss with Nate plus Dan. So it comes down to points 4, which is about 100-point difference over 3 years in favor of Nate and Dan. So Rick is the third team on this wheel. And from what I understand, we're gonna spin this, and then how do we? And then since you have the highest, I forget my own rules. Since you have the highest percentage, once we see how these divisions are assigned, you might even pick your team immediately on the air from the other remaining 6, and so we'll see how that goes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to spin. I'll remove the team once they're taken. So we'll just go 1, 2, 3, right? So whichever team comes first is 1, and then so let's say it's Brownout first, and let's say it's the Pandas. They'll be 1, 2. If it's Brownout, then the implications, and Brownout, the implications of the same division. Does that make sense? So whichever you get me, right? Does that make sense?
I don't know, but like you do it, and I'll follow along. You tell me when my cue is up. Tell me whatever my line is.
All right. Tell me when to stop, just this, because I'm shuffling the order of the things. This way there's no bias or anything here.
Let me stop.
All right. There we go. All right. You ready to spin this thing?
Spin it.
Here we go. So climactic. All right. So the inaugurals. Look at that. So the inaugurals are in the first position. So whichever team from the lower division ends up there, whichever team ends up getting picked first will be your division mate. And we'll spin again.
Not Flynn.
Awfully close. Looks like it's going to be the Pandas in the second position there. So it is. So it's going to go inaugurals, then Pandas. And let's see, 75% chance for you to see who your division mate is right here. Hello, Rick. So it's going
Love
to
me a
be the
good C word.
inaugurals and the C words in a division. And then let's see what the rest of this looks like.
Deep down, I was probably hoping for you, but I'll take Rick just on the basis of it not being Flynn.
And then it is going to be Flynn and the Pandas paired together. And then the implications and brownout. So it's going to be the inaugurals and the C words going to be in one division. The implications and brownout in another division. Pandas and Flynn in the last division there. And so that has our division set. So now the 6 remaining teams exist. And Cam's doing math on air right now. Are you, and it's okay if you're not, are you comfortable picking your next division mate here? Because you were saying you might choose to go first and then we would just pick. Or would you be happy saying you want to go second or third? Because it's a snake now that you know you're with Rick.
I've got my spot right here. There's some really weak teams, in my opinion, in Nate and Project. So that first spot, I'm going to go ahead and lock up the first spot.
All right. Who are you taking in your division?
I will not be taking Nate or Project. I will be taking Morgan.
All right. There you go. I fucking love it. All right. So Rick, Cam, and Morgan in one division. That is the most toxic division. I think it can only get worse. Well, I don't know. We'll see. So now I've got to get with Unicorn and K-Migs. Who gets to pick next? Let's pull that up super quickly. This is so much fun. The problem is I can't update the divisions in Sleeper until this is done because I don't want anyone to know and make them watch the videos because of the 2 cents a year that YouTube sends me for uploading videos. Second highest win percentage is K-Migs. So K-Migs will decide if he wants to go second and fifth or if he wants to go third and fourth. Something we'll have to do very shortly. Anyway, that'll do it for us. This has been fun. Award show is always fun. Picking divisions is always fun. And we're getting to the 40-minute mark. Some good off-season content for you. Speaking of off-season content, bylaws video coming soon with some breakdowns, calculator explanations, new unimproved website. At some point, Code is rumored to be doing a full mock draft for round 1, including the 1.13 that should be coming soon. There are some big things going on in Code's life that I'm not going to share that I think he's kept secret. That he'll maybe share soon, but he's not going to be around probably toward mid to end of March for a little bit of time. So I know that we're both very excited to get some content flowing. But this is a really good starting point and ending point at the exact same time. So final thoughts for you and your division of fine gentlemen with Rick, Morgan, and yourself. Was it Morgan the whole time, no matter what? Like, were you locked in there?
Yeah, and the point of picking first means I'm almost certain I'm going to end up with Chase here. So in my opinion, that's 4 pretty strong teams. Gives me an avenue to rebuild, despite not having my pick at the moment, probably not until 2026. But I think it'll be a fun division. Nothing I'm not used to with 4 strong teams in a division.
Yep.
But these other ones, I mean, they might not be used to it. But the one piece of advice I'd have to give them is, don't complain about the bylaws, nothing like that. Just win. Just win. Yeah,
Just win.
It's easy. It's easy.
Sustained success isn't real. Just win.
We'll see.
Yeah.
But as much as I'm looking forward to that division, a sincere, heartfelt thank you to my lovely division of death the last 3 years. I look back on it fondly, and I think we will all be glad to get out of it. But good luck, Flynn. Take down Unicorn. Start a new era.
Will we ever see a division of death like that again?
Probably
Statistically,
not but I do hope my division that we're about to enter is going to be pretty strong. I actually think all 3 teams will be pretty strong, and all things considered, I think I'll probably be the weakest of the 4 teams. But that's the cost of going all in this last year.
Yeah, statistically, I mean, this league isn't going anywhere, so statistically, it is likely that we will see a dominant division of death like that again. But I truly can't imagine one getting even close. So that'll do it for us. K-Migs, I'm coming to you. I know you haven't read the rules, but you have a big decision to make here, my friend. I'll catch up with you soon.